My child, pause for a moment and let everything around you grow quiet. You have spent so much of your time moving from one responsibility to the next, answering questions, meeting expectations, solving problems, and trying to stay ahead of whatever might happen. Even when your body has been still, your mind has kept running. You have carried unfinished conversations, decisions that still need to be made, and worries that follow you into the quietest hours of the night. But right now I am asking you to stop, not because your responsibilities do not matter, but because you matter to me. Give me these few minutes without rushing, pretending, or wondering whether you deserve to be here. You do not have to come with perfect faith or carefully prepared words. You do not need to prove that you have been strong, obedient, or worthy enough to receive my attention. I already know you completely, and I have drawn near to you in love. This moment is not a test, it is an invitation. You may believe you encountered these words by chance, but I can use even an ordinary moment to reach the deepest place in your heart. I know how easily you dismiss small interruptions, especially when you are tired or distracted. You tell yourself that you will pray later, rest later, or face what is happening inside you when life becomes less demanding. Yet the days keep moving, and the quiet you have been waiting for never seems to come. That is why I am meeting you here, in the middle of your unfinished day, before everything is settled and before you feel completely ready. I am not waiting for the perfect setting. I am present with you now. Let this moment become sacred, simply because you have chosen to recognize that I am here. You do not need a special room, a particular posture, or an impressive prayer. Whether you are sitting alone, resting after a difficult day, or listening while the world continues around you, my presence is not limited by your surroundings. I am closer than you realize. I have been with you through every hour that seemed empty and every season when my silence made you wonder whether I had stepped away. I did not leave. Even when you could not sense me, I remained near. Even when your prayers felt weak or scattered, I heard them. Even when you had no words and could only sit in silence, I understood what your heart was trying to say. Nothing about you has been hidden from me. I have seen the strength you displayed in front of others and the weariness you concealed when no one was watching. I have heard the questions you were afraid to speak aloud. I have noticed every time you kept moving because you believed that stopping would cause everything inside you to fall apart. You may have felt overlooked, but you have never been unseen. You may have felt forgotten, but you have never left my thoughts. I know your name, your story, and every moment that brought you to this place. I am not speaking to a distant crowd while you listen from the outside. I am speaking personally to you. My attention is not divided, and my love is not impersonal. I know the difference between the version of yourself you show the world and the person you are when every mask has been removed. I know what you hide behind your smile, your silence, your work, and your determination to appear fine. Still, I do not turn away. I am not disappointed by your humanity, nor am I surprised by your uncertainty. Your questions do not frighten me, and your needs do not exhaust me. You are safe in my presence. Come as you are, not as you think you should be. Bring me the honest version of your heart. If you are tired, come tired. If you are confused, come confused. If you are struggling to believe, bring me the small measure of trust you still possess. If all you can offer is your willingness to remain here for one more moment, that is enough. I am not measuring the beauty of your words. I am looking at the openness of your heart. Too often you have believed that you must repair yourself before coming close to me. You have thought you needed to become stronger, more disciplined, or more certain before I would welcome you. But my love does not begin after you improve. My love meets you where you are and invites you forward. You cannot earn what I freely give, and you do not have to compete for my attention. I am not asking you to perform, I am asking you to receive. Release the pressure to create a dramatic spiritual experience. You do not have to force tears, manufacture emotion, or convince yourself that you feel something extraordinary. Simply breathe and remain with me. Let your shoulders relax. Let your thoughts slow down. Allow the noise within you to settle, even if only a little. You have been listening to many voices, the voices of urgency, expectation, comparison, regret, and fear. For these few minutes, let my voice become the one you recognize above them all. My voice does not condemn you or drive you into panic. I speak with truth, but I also speak with mercy. I lead you without humiliating you. I call you closer without reminding you of every reason you believe you should stay away. You are my beloved child, and nothing you reveal to me will change my knowledge of you or diminish my love for you. I already know the complete story, including the parts you wish you could erase, and I have still chosen to remain. Let that truth settle into your heart. You do not have to hide here. You do not have to defend yourself or explain every decision you have made. You can stop fighting to be understood because I understand you fully. This pause is not wasted time. It is where you remember that you were never meant to carry life without me. You have tried to manage everything through effort, planning, and endurance, but your soul was created for communion with me. There's a kind of rest that begins when you stop trying to control the moment and simply allow yourself to be held. That is what I am offering you now. Open your hands, release your need to know exactly what will happen next, and trust me with this moment before you try to trust me with your entire future. You do not need to understand everything today. You only need to remain present. Let me meet you in the space between your questions and their answers. Let me remind you that you are not alone in the waiting. Something sacred begins whenever you stop running and turn your attention toward me. It may begin quietly, without signs that anyone else can see, but quiet moments with me are never empty. I am working within the stillness, teaching your heart to recognize my nearness again. Do not hurry away. Stay here and allow yourself to be known, loved, and received without condition. You have given so much attention to everything that demands something from you. Now give your attention to the one who asks you only to come. I am here, my child. I have been waiting for you, not with anger, impatience, or disappointment, but with open arms. Let this be the moment when you stop striving long enough to remember who holds you. Let this be the moment when you whisper, even if your voice trembles, God, I am here. And hear me answer you tenderly, my child, I am here too. My child, now that you have grown still in my presence, let me speak to every part of you that has been hurting. I do not see only what others can observe. I see beyond appearances, beyond the answers you give when someone asks if you are all right, and beyond the strength you have learned to display. I see your entire life at once, including the places you have kept hidden because you feared they would be misunderstood. Nothing you carry is too small for my attention, and nothing is too complicated for my compassion. I know the physical discomfort that has changed the way you move through your days. I know the ache that returns without warning, the exhaustion that sleep never seems to relieve, and the symptoms that make you wonder whether you will ever feel like yourself again. I have watched you wake up already tired and calculate how much energy you will need simply to complete ordinary responsibilities. I know how discouraging it can be when your body will not cooperate with what your heart longs to do. Others may see you functioning and assume everything is fine, but I know how much effort it sometimes takes for you to stand, work, smile, speak, or remain present. I see the appointments, unanswered questions, treatments, waiting, and uncertainty you may feel about what lies ahead. I am not indifferent to any of it. Your physical suffering matters to me because you matter to me. Seeking appropriate care is not a failure of faith, and receiving help does not make you weak. I can meet you through prayer, wise professionals, people who support you, and the strength you receive for each day. I also see the pain that leaves no visible mark. I know the pressure that settles in your chest when anxiety begins to rise. I hear the thoughts racing through your mind before you have time to stop them. I know how fear can transform one small uncertainty into 100 imagined disasters, leaving you exhausted from battling events that have not even happened. You have tried to reason your way out of that fear, but sometimes it returns before you can gather your thoughts. You may have wondered why you cannot simply calm down, or why peace seems to come more easily to everyone else. I do not condemn you for those moments. I understand the strain of living with a mind that rarely feels quiet. I know the nights when you stare into the darkness while questions circle endlessly within you. I know the mornings when you rise after receiving very little rest and still try to fulfill every expectation placed upon you. I see how carefully you conceal your distress so others will not worry, judge you, or tell you to get over something they do not understand. I know the loneliness of being surrounded by people while feeling that no one truly sees the battle taking place inside you. I see the heaviness that has made ordinary things feel difficult. I know when motivation disappears, when joy feels distant, and when even simple decisions require more energy than you believe you possess. You may have called yourself lazy or ungrateful because you could not explain why you felt so empty. Others may have offered quick answers to a struggle that was never simple, but I know the difference between unwillingness and weariness. I see how hard you have fought to keep going, even when you felt emotionally numb. I know the days when you wanted to withdraw from everyone because conversation felt exhausting, as well as the days when you longed for someone to notice without forcing you to explain. Your mental and emotional pain is real, even when it is difficult to describe. It does not become less important simply because someone else cannot see it. I also know the wounds within your heart. I was present when trust was broken, when promises were abandoned, and when someone you loved chose to walk away. I saw the moment you realized that a relationship was not what you had believed it to be. I heard the words that cut deeply, including those spoken years ago that still return when you are vulnerable. I know the rejection that made you question whether you were lovable and the betrayal that taught you to examine every act of kindness for hidden motives. I have watched you replay conversations, searching for the moment when everything changed and wondering whether a different response could have prevented the loss. I know how often you have blamed yourself for another person's choices. I see the grief you carry for those who are no longer beside you. Some losses came through death, while others came through distance, conflict, or silence. Each kind of absence leaves its own emptiness. I know the instinct to reach for someone who is no longer there, and the sadness of facing important days without the person with whom you once expected to share them. I know the memories that bring comfort and pain at the same time. You do not need to apologize for continuing to miss someone. Love does not disappear simply because time passes, and grief does not follow a schedule. I am not impatient with the tears that return after you thought you had finished crying. I also see the disappointment connected to dreams that did not unfold as you had hoped. I know the opportunity you prayed for that never arrived, the door that closed after you had invested so much, and the future you envisioned that now seems impossible. You may feel embarrassed by how deeply those losses affected you because others did not understand what they represented. But I understand. I know you were not grieving only an event. You were grieving the life you imagined would follow it. I see the frustration of watching others receive what you have desired for so long. I know how comparison can deepen sorrow and make you wonder whether you have been overlooked. I have heard the questions hidden behind your congratulations for others, including the quiet question, will there ever be something good for me? I am not offended by that question. I know it comes from a heart that is weighted and grown weary. There are also burdens you carry for other people. You have worried about those you love, tried to protect them, and taken responsibility for circumstances you cannot control. You have remained strong because you believed everyone depended on you. At times you have absorbed the fear, anger, or sadness of others until you could no longer distinguish their burdens from your own. I see the emotional labor no one recognizes and the sacrifices no one remembers to thank you for. I know how difficult it is to admit that you need care when you have grown accustomed to being the person who cares for everyone else. You may fear that honesty will make you a burden, but your needs do not make you burdensome. You are not required to remain unbreakable. I see your spiritual weariness as well, the prayers that seemed unanswered, the questions you were afraid to ask, and the distance you sometimes felt when you wanted my presence most. I know the guilt that followed your doubts and the fear that your struggle meant your faith had failed. You have wondered whether I was disappointed in you because you could not remain hopeful every day. But I have never mistaken exhaustion for rejection. I know when your silence is the only prayer you can offer. I understand the cry hidden beneath your anger and the longing concealed within your questions. My child, there is no part of your suffering that I dismiss. I see your body, your mind, your emotions, your grief, your disappointments, your relationships, and your weary spirit. I see them individually, and I understand how they affect one another. I know how physical exhaustion can weaken your emotions, how fear can disturb your body, and how heartbreak can make the entire world feel unsafe. You do not have to separate these things or explain them perfectly to me. Bring the whole tangled weight into my presence. I am not asking you to minimize it or compare it with anyone else's pain. I am telling you that I see it, I understand it, and I remain beside you through it. You are not invisible, forgotten, or alone. Every tear has been noticed, every silent cry has been heard, and every burden has been known by the one who holds you with unfailing compassion. My child, after bringing your pain into my presence, the next step is not to pretend that it no longer hurts. The next step is to reach toward me from exactly where you are. That is faith. Faith is not the absence of questions, fear, or disappointment. It is the decision to turn your heart toward me even while those things remain. You may have believed that faith must always feel powerful and certain, but some of the deepest faith is expressed through a trembling prayer. Sometimes faith is nothing more than whispering my name when you do not know what else to say. Sometimes it means choosing to remain with me when part of you wants to withdraw. Sometimes it means asking for help after disappointment has made you afraid to ask again. I do not despise small faith. I recognize every movement of your heart toward me, no matter how weak or hesitant it may seem to you. Remember the woman who had suffered from bleeding for 12 years. She had endured years of physical weakness, disappointment, and isolation. She had sought help and spent everything she possessed, yet her condition had not improved. By the time she heard about me, she had many reasons to protect herself from further disappointment. Hope had already cost her so much. Still, she entered the crowd and moved toward me. She did not arrive with a public speech or an impressive display of confidence. She carried one quiet conviction. If she could only touch my garment, that small act of reaching would be enough. The crowd pressed around me, and many people touched me physically. But her touch was different because it came from a heart that had chosen to trust. I felt her reach. I stopped for her. I called her forward, not to embarrass her, but to let her know that she had been seen. She was not an interruption or a nameless person hidden in the crowd. She mattered to me. Her faith was not perfect, polished, or loud, but it turned toward me and I received it. When your faith feels small, remember her. You do not need to create a dramatic moment. Reach for me honestly, knowing that I recognize the heart behind your reach. Remember also the man who waited beside the pool of Bethesda. For 38 years, he lived with a condition that shaped nearly every part of his existence. He watched other people move ahead while he remained in the same place. By the time I approached him, disappointment had become familiar. I asked whether he wanted to be made well, not because I lacked knowledge of his suffering, but because I wanted to awaken the desire that years of waiting had buried beneath resignation. His response revealed how long he had felt powerless. Whenever an opportunity appeared, someone else reached it first. He believed his future depended upon a system he could never navigate quickly enough. But his limitation did not limit me. I told him to rise, take up his mat, and walk. The same place that had represented helplessness became the place where he responded to my voice. His faith was expressed through obedience. He acted on my word before he had a complete explanation of what was happening. There will be times when faith asks you to take one honest step, not every step for the rest of your life, but the next one I place before you. You may still feel uncertain, yet you can respond. Faith does not require you to understand the entire path. It asks you to trust the one calling you forward. Think of the blind man who cried out as I passed by. The people around him tried to silence him because they considered his voice disruptive and his need unimportant. But he refused to let their opinions determine whether he could call upon me. He cried out even louder. I heard him above the noise, stopped, and asked that he be brought near. His persistence was not disrespectful. It was faith refusing to be intimidated. My child, there may be voices around you or within you telling you to stop asking, stop hoping, or accept that your need does not matter. Do not let those voices speak for me. Bring your requests to me. You are not troubling me when you pray. You are not taking attention away from someone more deserving. I do not rank human pain before deciding whose cry I will hear. I receive those who come to me. Remember the leper who approached me when others kept their distance. He said that if I were willing, I could make him clean. His question was not about my power. It was about whether my compassion extended to someone society had rejected. I answered by moving closer and touching him. Before his condition was removed, he received the touch that others had denied him. I was willing to enter the space everyone else avoided. When shame tells you to remain distant, faith allows you to draw closer. You do not have to make yourself acceptable before approaching me. Come with your uncertainty, your need, and your honest question. My compassion is not frightened by what has caused others to withdraw. I also want you to remember the disciples in the storm. They had followed me into the boat, yet their obedience did not prevent the wind from rising. Waves poured into the boat, and fear convinced them that they were about to be destroyed. They woke me with a desperate question. Did I care that they were perishing? Their fear did not cause me to abandon them. I stood within the storm and spoke peace over what they could not control. Faith is not the belief that storms will never arise. Faith is remembering who is with you when they do. You may bring me even the questions that sound frightened or frustrated. I would rather hear your honest cry than watch you hide behind words you do not mean. Turn toward me in the storm. Let your fear drive you into my presence instead of away from it. Consider Lazarus and the people who loved him. By the time I arrived, the situation appeared final. Martha believed that if I had come sooner, everything might have been different. Her words carried faith and disappointment at the same time. I did not reject her for that mixture. I met her within it. Mary came to me with tears, and I wept beside her. Before I called Lazarus from the tomb, I allowed those who were grieving to see that divine power is not separated from compassion. I did not ask them to deny the reality before them. I invited them to believe that the visible ending was not beyond my authority. Faith does not require you to call darkness light or pain pleasant. It allows you to acknowledge what has happened while refusing to declare that what you see is the limit of what I can do. These accounts were not preserved merely as stories about distant people. They reveal my character. I notice the person hidden in the crowd. I approach the one who has waited for years. I hear the cry others try to silence. I touch those who feel rejected. I remain present in storms, and I stand beside those who grieve. I am not asking you to imitate someone else's exact words or experience. I am inviting you to recognize the same compassion and authority and bring me the faith you possess today. Do not compare your faith with another person's confidence. Do not measure it by the intensity of your emotions. Faith can cry, question, tremble, and still reach for me. It does not deny medical realities, reject wise help, or pretend that suffering is unreal. It places every reality into my hands and says, I do not know how this will unfold, but I will not face it without you. That is the faith I honor, sincere, dependent, and willing to come. My child, you do not need to force yourself into certainty before approaching me. Approach me and let trust grow in my presence. Bring me the prayer that feels unfinished. Bring me the hope you are afraid to awaken. Bring me the part of your heart that still wonders whether I will respond. Your smallest honest reach is not lost in the crowd. I see it, I receive it, and I am reaching back toward you. My child, I want you to understand that healing does not always arrive in the way you expect. You may imagine that it must happen in a single dramatic moment, accompanied by an immediate change that removes every question. At times, transformation can be sudden, but often, my work begins quietly beneath the surface, where you cannot yet measure it. A seed does not appear lifeless simply because its first movement takes place underground. Before anything becomes visible, roots begin to form in darkness. In the same way, I may be working in places you cannot see before the evidence reaches the surface of your life. Do not assume that nothing is happening simply because everything has not changed at once. Your limited view of the present cannot reveal the full extent of what I am doing. You have often looked for healing through your feelings, expecting a wave of emotion, a clear sign, or an immediate sense of relief. When those things did not come, you wondered whether your prayer had failed or whether I had passed you by. But my presence is not measured by the intensity of a moment, and my work does not depend on your ability to feel it. I can be near even when your emotions remain quiet. I can be active even when your circumstances appear unchanged. I can begin restoring what has been damaged while you are simply breathing, resting, praying, receiving appropriate care, or taking the next responsible step. Do not allow a temporary feeling to become the final judge of what I am doing within you. Feelings are meaningful, but they rise and fall. My faithfulness remains steady. Healing may first appear as a small change that you could easily overlook. It may be one peaceful hour after many restless days, one night of deeper sleep, or one morning when getting out of bed feels slightly less difficult. It may be the first honest conversation you have allowed yourself to have, the courage to ask for help, or the realization that a familiar thought no longer controls you as strongly as it once did. It may be a moment when you breathe more freely, respond differently to something that used to overwhelm you, or recognize that hope has quietly returned. Do not dismiss these beginnings because they seem ordinary. What appears small can be evidence that something deeper is shifting. Learn to recognize progress without demanding perfection. Give thanks for every measure of strength, clarity, rest, and peace, even as you continue waiting for more. You have been tempted to measure your journey against the experiences of others. You have watched someone else receive a quick answer and wondered why your path has taken longer. You have heard testimonies that made healing sound effortless, and instead of encouraging you, they caused you to question what you were doing wrong. But another person's timeline is not the standard for your life. I know your entire story. I understand the layers of what you carry, the circumstances surrounding it, and the kind of care you need. I do not work carelessly, nor do I compare you with anyone else. A slower process does not mean that you are less loved, less faithful, or less worthy of compassion. It may mean that I am addressing foundations that cannot be repaired through a hurried answer. You often want me to remove the most visible symptom because that is where the discomfort feels greatest. I understand that desire, and I do not condemn it. Yet I also see what lies beneath the surface. I see the patterns, pressures, wounds, habits, environments, and burdens connected to what you feel. I care too much about you to offer only the appearance of wholeness while leaving the deepest source untouched. Sometimes I must lead you toward truths you have avoided, boundaries you have been afraid to establish, habits that need to change, or assistance you have been reluctant to receive. At other times, the work may involve rest, patience, grief, forgiveness, treatment, counseling, or honest conversations. None of these things means that I am absent. I can work through prayer and through practical wisdom. I can strengthen you through scripture, supportive relationships, trained professionals, medicine, and the daily decisions that protect your well-being. Do not reject a helpful means simply because it does not appear dramatic. My care can reach you through many hands. Healing is not always passive. Surrender does not mean doing nothing. It means releasing the belief that everything depends entirely upon you. There may be steps that belong to you, but the final burden does not. Your part may be to tell the truth, attend the appointment, follow sound guidance, leave an unhealthy situation, ask someone trustworthy for support, or allow yourself to rest without guilt. Your part may be to practice what brings stability, even when you do not see immediate results. I will guide you, but I will not ask you to control every outcome. Take the step that belongs to you, and place what you cannot control into my hands. You have exhausted yourself by trying to force change according to a timeline created by fear. Fear tells you that if everything does not improve immediately, it never will. It makes you believe that you are running out of time and pressures you to inspect your progress constantly. But I am not governed by panic. I do not rush because fear demands it, and I do not forget simply because time has passed. Release the deadlines you have created for your healing. They have become another burden. You may have told yourself that you should be stronger by now, that you should no longer feel certain emotions, or that you should have moved beyond what happened. Those expectations have made you ashamed of the very process through which I am caring for you. Be patient with yourself. Recovery is not a straight line. There may be days when you feel stronger and days when the old heaviness returns. A difficult day does not erase the growth that came before it. A setback does not send you back to the beginning. It simply reveals where you need compassion, support, and renewed dependence on me. Do not turn one painful moment into a declaration that nothing has changed. Look at the whole journey. Notice the ways you respond differently, the wisdom you have gained, and the strength that now appears where there was once only confusion. Some seasons of healing require you to slow down. You have often treated rest as something you must earn after completing everything, but there will always be another task. Rest is not laziness, failure, or surrender to defeat. It can be an act of trust. When you rest, you acknowledge that the world continues because I sustain it, not because you remain constantly active. Your body and mind have limits, and respecting those limits is not a lack of faith. I created rhythms of work and stillness because both are necessary. Let quiet become a place where you receive rather than another space you fill with pressure. You may also need to accept that healing and unanswered questions can exist together for a time. You want explanations because you believe that understanding everything will make you feel secure. Yet some answers may not come when you expect them. I am not asking you to stop seeking wisdom or silence your sincere questions. I am asking you not to postpone peace until every mystery has been resolved. You can be held while you are still uncertain. You can take the next step without knowing the entire route. You can experience my nearness before you understand the purpose of the journey. Trust is formed not only when answers arrive, but also when you discover that I remain faithful while you wait. My child, do not despise gradual healing. There is tenderness in a process that teaches you to recognize my presence day by day. I am not merely bringing you toward a future result. I am accompanying you through every stage. I am with you in the first small sign of change, in the days when progress feels slow, and in the moments when you need to begin again. You are not falling behind. You are not failing because the journey takes time. Continue walking with me without demanding that today contain the entire answer. Receive the strength available for this day. Honor every quiet beginning and trust that unseen work is still real. I have not abandoned the process, and I have not abandoned you. Step by step, layer by layer, I am leading you with patience, wisdom, and love. My child, there is a part of healing that reaches deeper than what happened to you. It changes the way you have learned to see yourself because of what happened. Pain does not remain only as a memory. When carried long enough, it can become a name, a label, or a story you repeat till you believe it defines you. You have looked at your wounds and concluded that you are damaged. You have remembered your failures and called yourself a failure. You have experienced rejection and assumed that you must be unlovable. You have endured disappointment and begun to expect that every good thing will eventually be taken away. But these are conclusions formed in suffering. They are not the truth I speak over you. What happened is part of your story, but it is not your identity. The words spoken against you are not your name. The choices other people made do not determine your value. Your diagnosis, loss, mistake, weakness, or worst season cannot tell you who you are. I am the one who created you, and my voice has the final authority over your identity. You are my beloved child. You are completely known and unconditionally loved. You are not a problem I regret creating or a burden I am reluctant to carry. You are not too complicated for my compassion or too wounded for my presence. I have never looked upon you with disgust. I have never reduced you to the most painful thing you experienced or the worst decision you made. I see the whole person beneath every layer of protection, and I still call you mine. Shame has tried to convince you otherwise. Shame speaks differently from conviction. Conviction draws you toward truth and shows you a way forward, but shame traps you in condemnation and tells you to hide. Shame does not simply say that you did something wrong, it says that something is fundamentally wrong with you. It reminds you of your past without mercy and predicts that you will never change. It makes you believe that if others knew everything, they would leave. It even causes you to withdraw from me because you imagine that I see you with the same harshness with which you see yourself. But I am not the author of that condemning voice. I do not expose wounds to humiliate you. I bring them into the light so they can no longer control you from the darkness. You do not need to punish yourself to prove that you are sorry. You do not need to remain miserable to demonstrate that you understand the seriousness of the past. Where repentance is needed, come to me honestly. Receive forgiveness, make things right where possible, learn what must be learned, and then stop returning to the prison from which grace has released you. My mercy is not permission to remain unchanged. It is the power to rise without being crushed by condemnation. There are mistakes you have confessed many times, yet you continue to carry them as though my forgiveness were incomplete. You ask me to remove the guilt, then take it back because self-punishment feels more believable than mercy. My child, let my grace be greater than your accusation. You cannot change yesterday by hating yourself today. You can only place the past in my hands and allow truth to guide the person you are becoming. Fear has also shaped the way you see yourself and the world. Some fears began in moments when you felt powerless. You learned to remain alert because danger once came without warning. You learned to expect abandonment because someone you trusted left. You learned to hide your needs because asking for help led to rejection or criticism. Those responses may have protected you for a season, but now they have become walls that keep out the very care you need. You call those walls independence, caution, or strength. Yet beneath them is often a frightened heart trying never to be hurt again. I do not condemn you for building them. I understand why they appeared, but you no longer have to live behind them. Safety does not come from controlling every situation, predicting every disappointment, or refusing to need anyone. Those strategies may create the appearance of security, but they also keep your heart in constant tension. Let me teach you a different kind of safety, one rooted in my steady presence and supported by wisdom, healthy boundaries, and trustworthy relationships. You can be discerning without becoming closed. You can protect what is sacred without shutting everyone out. You can say no without guilt and yes without fear. You can ask for support without surrendering your dignity. I see the younger part of you who learned these lessons before you had the words to explain them. I see the child who wanted to feel protected, valued, and chosen. I know the moments when you were ignored, criticized, compared, controlled, or made responsible for burdens that never belonged to you. Perhaps you became quiet because speaking created conflict. Perhaps you became useful because usefulness seemed like the safest way to earn love. Perhaps you became perfect in public because mistakes were met with humiliation. Perhaps you learned to make yourself small so others could remain comfortable. Those patterns followed you into adulthood, and you sometimes wondered why you reacted so strongly to situations that seemed minor. But your reaction was not connected only to the present moment. It touched an older wound. I am not ashamed of that wounded part of you. I approach it with gentleness. You do not need to despise the person you became in order to survive. Those responses helped you endure what you did not yet know how to process. But survival is not the only way you are allowed to live. You can thank that frightened part of yourself for trying to protect you. Then allow me to teach your heart that the danger is no longer in control. You are not trapped in the age, moment, or relationship where the wound began. You are here, and I am with you here. The past may explain some of your patterns, but it does not have to command your future decisions. There are also words you have repeated about yourself so often that they feel like facts. I am too much. I am not enough. I ruin everything. No one stays. I cannot change. I do not deserve peace. Listen carefully. These are not the names I have given you. Stop agreeing with language that wounds the person I love. Speak to yourself with the same compassion you would offer someone else who had endured what you endured. Compassion does not deny responsibility or excuse harmful choices. It creates the safety necessary for honest growth. You can acknowledge where you were wrong without declaring that you are worthless. You can recognize weakness without believing that weakness is your entire identity. You can remember what happened without allowing the memory to determine what you deserve. Forgiveness may become part of this freedom, but forgiveness does not mean calling evil good, denying the damage, or returning to unsafe relationships. It does not require restoring access where trust has been repeatedly violated. Forgiveness releases your heart from the demand to carry the debt forever, while wisdom determines which boundaries are necessary. Do not rush yourself into words your heart has not yet understood. Bring the anger, grief, and injustice to me honestly. Let me separate forgiveness from denial and freedom from forced reconciliation. Your healing does not depend on pretending that nothing happened. It grows as the event loses its authority to define you. My child, begin to see yourself through my eyes. I see courage in the person who kept going. I see tenderness beneath the defenses. I see sincerity beneath the questions and strength beneath the exhaustion. I see someone worthy of care, honesty, respect, and love. You do not have to earn those things through perfection. Let shame loosen its grip. Let fear stop writing your decisions. Let the past return to its proper place as something that happened, not as the ruler of who you are. You are not abandoned, condemned, ruined, or forgotten. You are held in my mercy, covered by my love, and invited to live from the identity I have always spoken over you. My child, fully known and still deeply loved. I am not leading you through this journey merely so you can return to the person you were before the pain began. Restoration is not always a return to an earlier version of life. Sometimes it is the creation of something deeper, wiser, freer, and more firmly rooted in me. You may wish you could recover everything exactly as it once was, but I see beyond what was lost. I see what can now be formed within you. A steadier heart, clearer discernment, healthier boundaries, greater compassion, and a peace that no longer depends entirely on circumstances. Wholeness does not mean that every scar disappears or that you forget what happened. It means the wound no longer controls your identity, directs your choices, or determines what you expect from the future. The memory may remain, but it will not always carry the same power. You will be able to remember without being pulled back into that moment. You will speak about what happened without feeling as though it is happening all over again. What once silenced you will become something you can face with honesty and peace. This is the restoration I am bringing, not the denial of the past, but freedom from its dominion. There will be signs that life is opening before you again. You will notice laughter returning without being forced. You will find yourself enjoying something simple without guilt. You will begin making plans without immediately expecting disappointment. Rest will feel safer, and silence will no longer seem like a place where every fear grows louder. You will rediscover parts of yourself that were buried beneath survival, the ability to dream, create, connect, trust, and receive love. These changes may appear ordinary to others, but you will understand how significant they are. You will remember the days when getting through the next hour required all your strength, and you will recognize the miracle of being able to breathe without carrying the same weight. Do not underestimate the holiness of ordinary joy. A peaceful morning, an honest conversation, a genuine smile, and a hopeful thought can all become evidence that sorrow no longer occupies every room within you. I am not restoring you so that you can perform strength for others or prove that you have overcome everything. I am restoring you so that you can live freely and love without being governed by fear. You do not need to turn your pain into a public story before you are ready. Your healing belongs first to the quiet relationship between you and me. Allow it to become rooted before you feel pressured to explain it. In time, however, what you have learned may become a light for someone else. You will recognize weariness in another person because you once carried it. You will notice the pain hidden behind a smile because you know what it means to appear fine while struggling inside. You will listen without offering shallow answers, and you will remain present when others are uncomfortable with grief. Your compassion will not come from theory. It will come from discovering that people do not always need someone to solve them. Sometimes they need someone who will see them, respect their experience, and remind them that they are not alone. What you endured will not be wasted when it teaches you how to love with wisdom. Your testimony will not be that you never suffered. It will be that suffering did not have the final word. You will not need to exaggerate what happened or present yourself as someone who never struggles. The power of your story will be found in its honesty. You were tired, frightened, wounded, and uncertain, yet I remained with you. You asked questions, experienced delays, and sometimes had only enough faith to take one small step, yet grace continued to carry you. Your life will show that healing can be quiet, that courage can coexist with trembling, and that hope can return after disappointment. Someone who believes they are too broken may look at you and realize that restoration is possible. Someone who feels ashamed may hear your words and find the courage to come into the light. Someone who has grown tired of waiting may be strengthened by the patience you learned through your own journey. You will not become their savior. You will simply point toward the one who stayed with you. Let every good thing that grows from your healing lead back to love rather than pride. You have known what it feels like to be misunderstood, so choose to understand. You have known loneliness, so become a safe presence when you are able. You have known the harm caused by careless words, so speak with gentleness. You have known what happens when boundaries are ignored, so honor both your limits and the limits of others. You have known the exhaustion of carrying burdens that were never yours, so help without trying to control. Restoration will give you something meaningful to offer, but it will also teach you that you are not responsible for rescuing everyone. Serve from wholeness, not from the fear that your value depends on being needed. Love generously, but remain rooted in me. Give compassion without abandoning wisdom. Your future is not a demand to prove that the pain made you stronger. It is an invitation to live with the freedom, truth, and tenderness that have grown within you. There may still be difficult days, Wholeness does not mean that you will never feel sadness, fear, or fatigue again. It means those experiences will no longer convince you that you have been abandoned. You will know where to turn. You will remember that a hard day is not the end of your progress, and that asking for support is not defeat. You will carry practices, relationships, and truths that help you remain grounded. You will understand that caring for your body, mind, and spirit is not selfish. You will become more attentive to what brings peace and more willing to step away from what repeatedly destroys it. The wisdom you gain through struggle will help you recognize when to move, when to wait, when to speak, and when to rest. Do not fear the future because it does not look exactly like the life you once imagined. Some doors needed to close because they could not lead you into freedom. Some relationships changed because the version of you that tolerated harm is no longer in control. Some dreams may return in a different form, while new desires may emerge that are more closely aligned with who you are becoming. Trust me with those changes. I am not limited to restoring what you can remember. I can bring purpose from places you believed contained only loss. I can create beauty without pretending that the brokenness was beautiful. I can redeem a story without calling the suffering necessary or good. Redemption means that pain does not get to claim ownership of the ending. My love does. Look forward without demanding to see every detail. Your future does not need to be completely visible for it to be held by me. Take the next step with the strength you have received. Welcome joy when it comes. Do not push it away because sorrow once felt more familiar. Allow good people to care for you. Let peace remain without searching for a reason it must soon disappear. You are not betraying the past by living fully in the present. You are honoring the life that is still before you. My child, this is not the end of your story. The season that wounded you will not define every season that follows. I am still writing, still guiding, and still bringing life into places that once felt empty. One day you will look back and recognize that I was present in every stage. In the first sacred pause, in the honest naming of your pain, in the small reach of faith, in the slow and hidden work, and in the release of shame and fear, you will see that restoration was not a single moment, but a faithful movement toward wholeness. So breathe deeply and place your future in my hands. You do not have to force what comes next. Walk with me, receive each day as it arrives, and trust that my love will remain steady. You are seen, held, guided, and never alone. What pain tried to silence will not have the final voice over your life. Grace will speak more clearly, peace will take deeper root, and your life will declare with quiet strength that I did not leave you halfway. I remained, I carried you, and I faithfully led you forward.